Once shunned upon by elderly women across southern Africa, snuff, also known as Nsunko, has become more than an addictive drug. It has become a way of life for most young men and women. Nonetheless, it is not about how much you take, but why they take it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chisomo Mbewe. Welcome to Facts According to You. So Nsunko njani?
Nsunko ni fuaka amabema zimai bena ngabemera pa midyala pakuanja ifaka then wafakamo.
Nsunko ni fuaka uti bina ngomba konda kuvichitiramu.
Then bena ngabema dele wafaka kukamwa mwezi. Wafaka chemu kamwa bula cheka mwafaka Nsunko.
It's the something that always women use. Some of the women use it in private parts for them to warm their bodies.
Nsunko ni fuaka kuti ya makolo in short bagamba.
Nsunko ni fuaka ya powder. But those days they used to put it for them to remove. Have you get my point?
Nsunko ni fuaka kuti ya makolo noti monga ababana zimai so.
Nsunko ni fuaka yewenzo kondo kupepa vakulu vankote so because yenzo vatendiza na problem sometimes kumapeze kavenangu vana problem popema vana problem in terms of breathing.
Why do people use Nsunko?
Nsunko. Okay. Nsunko is also a herbal.
Ati monga zimai babema Nsunko ringa na tivamfungara ma virgin mwazi.
Some of the people they get it as if it's an alcohol thing. Have you get it?
Basi panga senzo ena ngapanga tatu kume kuibwerera kunaniko so wakabemba bwimba bwerera kunani bani boza.
They use it in other different ways as at now.
Kari mana boza binango atikapena ukukaya muzi wa mwana kambira kuti binango amakamba ati ukashita so Nsunko ungala kukazi kuchapwanzi so iyai.
So is Nsunko a bad thing or it's a good thing?
Okay, as at me, it's not good. It's an herbal. I've already told you.
These drugs sometimes they are okay. They can be used for a good purpose, but people get to abuse them. They get to be bad just because they are abused, not because they are bad in nature. No, these things they are also good in nature, but when abused, they get to be bad.
So as an herbal, it means that it's supposed to be sold, but some of them they abuse them. Yes, that's the problem.
Iliko danger ingalite munga ni cancer ndemo eri Nsunko kuipa kwa hapo manje kozi voika kwa ni vambiri kuli Nsunko.
It's a bad thing because most of the times people they have developed some diseases such as cancer due to that.
So it was encouraged out to so afuni go bema na Nsunko wakamba jareta cancer mwezi ni ave monga voika kwa vambiri kuli Nsunko.
It's not a bad thing. It can be used for a good purpose, but it becomes a bad thing if someone is abusing it. For example, an example I can give of marijuana, chamba. The same chamba can be used in drugs to treat a person, but when abused by a person, they become bad. So it's all about abusing them. That's why they become bad. Or they are good in nature.
Nsunko is traditionally a medicine. It has medicinal components. I know from my own grandmother as well, who also used to sniff. Men smoke it. They use the actual leaves, and my grandfather did that. And then the women, they also preferred to pound it and in a powder form and sniff it through the nose.
Snuff is actually the tobacco leaves that is grounded, and then it's actually just used just as it is. So it is smokeless, and the active ingredient in that is actually nicotine. So when we speak of smokeless tobacco, or when we talk about any tobacco product, including cigarettes, including snuff, including any other thing that includes that, like shisha, all of this have an ingredient called nicotine. Now, nicotine is a substance that is a stimulant. Now, what do we mean by stimulant? It activates your physical body as well as your mental side.
Traditionally, it was used as a medicine for young children if they have the second condition, and one of the conditions is flu or a cold or a cough, and they would use it. But in these days now, it has been used by women to make their bodies warm. And I'm not so sure, I cannot explain that because I have not proven it. If it keeps you warm in any other way you use it, then it obviously perhaps does work like that. Unfortunately, it has its own negative impact. It can cause corrosion if it is applied straight onto the body, and where I hear that some women are using it into their vaginas, which is a dangerous thing to do. And I think that in that way, when we look at cancer control aspects, there are issues about insertion of things like that in sensitive areas of the body, especially for women.
So when you're taking snuff, which is smokeless tobacco, it's grounded. What happens is you're actually taking it in your mouth, just putting in your mouth, or you're actually sniffing it. All right, so it does cause the physical irritation around the lining around your nose. It also causes the irritation in your mouth, and it actually may not go to the lungs directly, but it will affect the lungs indirectly, as opposed to the smoke, which actually just goes directly to the lungs and causes those effects. It has physiological as well as emotional problems that it comes with respect to nicotine. So nicotine is one of the most addictive psychoactive substances, arguably one of the most addictive substances, and very hard to get over once you're actually used to it and when you become habituated to it.
I've talked to some women who have said, yeah, they use it to keep their bodies warm for purposes of sexual gratification, which is I think quite an abusive way of using the product or the substance. It's a very strong substance. It can cause you a lot of damage in not a long time, in a short time. It's quite unhealthy.